afternoon, everybody online. There's a camera behind here. We've got people all over the world watching this. My name's Martin Godfrey. I've been asked to run this memorial. I'm not a minister of religion by any stretch of the imagination, but we're going to try and do Frank proud, and we're going to have a few people come up and say a few words. But before we start, I would just like to everybody to just bow your heads and spend a couple of minutes, not even that long, in thought for our dear departed Frank. So if we could just give it some thought. All right, thank you very much. I'm going to ask Dick Vogel to come up here. Dick is a minister of religion, and he is going to just say something very briefly for Frank. Microphone's on.
We're all set to go, yeah. Thanks very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How is the acoustics? Can you hear? Okay. It is indeed a pleasure and a blessing that we can all come together this afternoon to honor our departed friend. And in this respect, we want you to know that we miss Frank really, and the departure of a loving and caring husband, a loving and loyal father, and then a good friend to everybody. And in this respect, can you hear? Thank you. And in this respect, we think of Beverly in our thoughts. We think of Kerry Lee and Taryn and Kayla D, the children, and we think of Raymond, a dear brother, and we think of Priscilla, a loving sister. I also would like to take this opportunity to welcome the Moths and their families that are here this afternoon. In the past 25 years, I have met Frank, and the old adage that a friend in need is a friend indeed proved very true indeed. The Knowles family moved in next to us 25 years ago. And my dear wife Lynn said to me, I'm going next door just to greet them and welcome them. And Lynn came back later and said to me, she said, what a lovely couple. She said, and Mr. Knowles, he was so friendly. I offered to bring them tea or coffee, and he said he appreciated very much, and he said, they are so busy unpacking and getting the bedroom ready and the kitchen ready, but they would certainly like to have tea and coffee with us sometime. And as the months went by, I then went across to our neighbors, and I rang the bell, and a lady answered the door. I later on realized that was Beverly, I was told. And I introduced myself and I said, please, may I speak to your husband? I have something for him. And she said, oh, I do come in. And she turned around and I heard her say, Frank. And the next minute, Frank appeared and I introduced myself. And he said, come into the lounge, would you like a beer? And I said, thank you, no. And he said, coffee. I said, I'll have some coffee, thank you. And I welcomed him. I said, you are now a member of a body corporate. And I brought you a set of rules. These rules, they're really simple. Basically, the rubbish goes out on a Tuesday morning, and the municipality will collect it in the afternoon. And we ask that Sunday afternoons be peaceful and quiet. No music, no noise. The elderly tenants, they would love to sleep and rest. I said, you are now in a body corporate, and we all go according to the rules that apply to it. And I brought you a set of rules, and here is my card. Please, if you need any, if you have any problems, if you need any advice there, I'm right next door to help you. And as the months went by, we became more friends. And I said to him, in 2 weeks' time, the corporate body is having a general meeting, and I will make sure that you and your wife will attend. And as the months went by, and one Saturday we left our front door ajar, and in walked a pretty little girl. She pushed the door open, and she walked straight to the lounge. And Lynn had a set of dolls that she brought from overseas. And this little girl played with the dolls. And when she finished, she put the dolls back in place. And she just calmly walked out. And Lynn and I looked at each other and we smiled. And Lynn said to me, what a breath of fresh air. Our children are living in America. And it was so lovely just to see a child coming in to the lounge and all that. And as the meeting took place, and Frank, I was delighted because Frank was appointed as the chairman. And I rejoiced because in the past year, the chairman had gone to Cape Town, and I was the treasurer, and for a year I had to sit with all the problems of the body corporate, and the financial situation, the problems with the tenants' halls. And now we had Frank, and this was a blessing for me. And straight away, I went to Frank, and I rang the doorbell. Beverly opened, and I said to Frank, she said, he's in the lounge, but go through. And he said to me, hi, have you come for a beer? I said, no, I've got a problem. I said that the tenant in number 4 is really a grumpy old man, and I have problems with him. He is 2 months in arrears with the levies and with the water account. And the last time I went there, he was abrupt and short and not very polite. Please, can you go and talk to him? And Frank said to me, tomorrow morning we have one of our directors from Cape Town coming, but I promise you I will speak to him in the afternoon, and I will come back to you later in the afternoon, which Frank did. And he said to me, I rang the doorbell, the woman opened, I introduced myself, I said, please can I speak to your husband? And she took me through to the lounge. She was sitting there. As Frank said, I greeted him and introduced myself. And as we spoke, we realized we had a common friend. And he said, this man's attitude changed. He shouted to his wife, he said, bring us some coffee. And Frank said, I sat there drinking coffee. We spoke about the country's economy. We spoke about the war between Russia and the Ukraine. And Frank said, a half an hour later, I said to him, I have to go, but please, the treasurer has asked me to remind you of the arrears you owe. And he said, no problem, I'll pay it tomorrow morning. And he did. And I thanked Frank, I said, that was wonderful. I love this. And one Saturday afternoon, it was in June, we had now become very good friends because we had the corporate body's problems that we managed. And it's late afternoon, on Saturday at 4 o'clock, I said to Lynn, I'm going next door to Frank. I want to watch the rugby. And I rang the doorbell. Beverly was there. She took me through. Frank had two associates with him. He said they were business friends. And I said to him boldly, the Springboks are playing the All Blacks at 4 o'clock. My TV, we don't have the sporting channels. I want to watch the rugby. And he smiled and he said, come sit here. This is a good seat. And I was hardly seated when a can of beer was put in my hand. And I said, oh boy. Now, I enjoyed the beer. I enjoyed the rugby, although the All Blacks beat the Springboks by a small margin. And I enjoyed the company. It was just wonderful. And then afterwards, Frank and I just sat there and a good chat. Now, it was about a month later, at 5 o'clock, I went over to Beverly and I said, will Frank be late? She said, no, he'll be here in about 10 minutes' time. And Frank arrived and very friendly. And he said to me, what's up? I said, we have a serious problem. Now, I said, the sewage drain where I live is overflowing with feces. And the drain is so full, the lid is lifted, and the stuff is flowing right past our front door. I don't know, the old building in those days, the pipes went right in front of the front door. And I said to my wife, please shut the door and keep the window shut. The smell is terrible. And Frank looked at me and he said, well, let me just go say hello to my wife and daughter and give them a kiss each. I'll change my clothes. I'll come over and have a look. Now, Frank was also a handyman, and he had a set of metal bars that interlinked, and he came over with gloves, and he said to me, have you got gloves? I said, yes. He said, put them on. We lifted the drain lid, and it was full to the top, and it was overflowing, and the smell, people was terrible. And now Frank inserted the metal pipes in there. He said, oh, I've got the hole here where the pipe is. And he pushed, and he said, wow, there's a blockage here. And he pushed and shoved, and gradually the level in the drain started dropping slowly, until it was empty. And he withdrew the metal bars, and he said to me, you'll have to clean up this mess. And I called my wife. I said, Ellen, please get the hose pipe. There was another drain at the end where we lived. I said, just wash away all the stuff here. It's terrible. And Frank said to me, do you have a plan of this complex? I said, I have. He said, let me have it. And days later, he came to me. He said, this building, 30 years old, and we have asbestos pipes. He said, asbestos was banned as outlaw years ago. And he said, it's no wonder. He said, the pipe between your section and mine is broken. And I said, what do we do? I threw my arms up. He said, I have a friend who is a plumber. Let me speak to him. And Frank came back later. He said, he will come and sort out the problem for us. 2 months later, 15,000 rand, and we had a new set of metal pipes. The system was now working perfectly. But the foreman, who Frank knew, he came to Frank and I, and he said, gentlemen, I regard toilets as a sacred item. And we laughed, and he said, no, really, he said, when we dug up the concrete there to remove the pipes, the workman called me, the pipe between this section and your section, it was blocked. And he said, they showed me, and I couldn't believe it. In it, there were pads, there were banana peels, there were earbuds, and he said a wrapped up ball of newspaper. He said, it's absolutely shocking. You give notice to the tenants, you write to them or phone them and tell them that they must regard and look after their toilets, and they must each get a waste paper basket in which they can, if they sit on the toilet, to throw in their banana peels and newspapers and any other unwanted types. You must not use the toilet for any other purpose than to can they
Well, you can hear.
Yeah.
But we're gonna wrap up now, so
Okay.
we'll help you down when you just say finish.
Okay. Oh, so thank you very much, Bridget. So we sorted out the toilet problem, and then I said to Frank, now, the lady at number 5, in a very bad mood, she said, now after they dug up all the concrete in the front doors there, well, all the tenants, we replaced it and put down new tiles. And the lady came to Frank and said, I refuse to pay for any tiles there. You people broke my tiles and all that, and you replaced them. And Frank came to me and said, what do we do? I said, well, you know, it's really her responsibility. And Frank said, well, went back to her and said, that's all right, we will replace it and we won't charge you anything. It was just the things. And people, the beauty is that we had such a good friendship, Frank and I, that we could always communicate with each other and speak and all that. And the problems we solved together, only once in 25 years we had an altercation. I became, something. Frank came to me and said, I've got new plans. We're going to do away with that wall there, and we'll put up a new railings and all that. And he said it's going to cost a bit. And I don't know what came over me, but I listened, and then I said, and he said, I want to go ahead with the plans. And I said, I'm not happy. It's going to be an extra cost for the tenants. And we have some tenants who are struggling to make ends meet. I'm not interested. And I don't know why, but I said, if you want to go ahead with it, you do. I'm not interested. And I turned my back on him and I walked away. And as I walked away, the little voice inside my head, the conscience says, remember what your mother taught you. You must always control your temper. And so I said, what the heck? But I told Lynn, and Lynn was upset with me. She said, how dare you? She said, you go straight back to Frank. Must I end?
Yes, please, darling.
Okay, good. You know, that she said, you go back to Frank and apologize. And I said, no, I'm going to bed. But the next afternoon, I'm going to finish off now, people. The next afternoon, Frank came to the door, rang the doorbell, then answered. And he said, where's your husband? I'm going to speak to him. I have a present for him. He came with a bottle of red wine, and he said to me, I'm sorry, I apologize for yesterday. And I said, I had a restless night. I couldn't sleep. Thank you very much. And I apologize. And we became good friends. See, I want to... Can I end off with a prayer?
You can.
Can I? Yeah. I wish to close with a prayer. So if you don't mind standing, please, let's have a prayer for Frank. Yeah. Oh Lord our God, how grateful we are that we can come here together. The heavens declare thy glory, and millions of angels bow down before you. And Father, we are so glad that you are our God. The unknown author of the book of Hebrews said that he praised you and thanked you for the blessings. And he said, you are God and there is none beside you. And Father, he was so right, because you are God. You created the heavens and earth, and you hold our destinies in your hand. And Father, this morning, my prayer is for the next of kin of Frank, the names we've mentioned, that you bless them, give them strength and comfort during this morning period. And for each and every one here, Father, we ask that you bless them, and as we depart from here, guide us on our ways, Father. And thank you for your loving kindness always. In the name of Jesus, amen. Thanks. Can you pick up?
Come this way.
Can I go this way?
Right. Now that we know the whole history of the complex, thank you, Dick, for that. If ever you have any problems with your plumbing, Dick's your man. Yeah. So we're going to go through the eulogies, but I just want to say a little bit louder. I'm not sure everybody heard. So Frank is the father to Kayla D, Kerry Lee, Taryn, who's in Ireland. She's 8 months pregnant and couldn't be here. His stepfather, or bonus father, I would prefer to call them, to Stanton and Jacqueline and Shane. And he's a brother to Priscilla and Raymond. I've known Raymond and Frank since we were knee-high to a grasshopper. And Frank was a friend to way too many for us, and it just shows here. And I always say that the measure of a man or a woman is always told by the number of people that turn up at their memorial services or funerals or wakes. So it's a testament to Frank how many people are here today, how many people are watching online. That means he's made an impact on all our lives. He was class of 77 at Alexandra High School. He was the owner of OK Greengrocer in Hayfields for a number of years, and more recently was the national sales manager at ENC Charcoal. I do have some words from those people, which we will do a little bit later. But first of all, I'd like to call up Bev. Are you okay to talk, Bev? Yes or no? It's okay. Bev's going to say a few words, and then we'll do the rest of the family. Please, Bev.
Promise I won't be long. Just to say thank you very much for everybody for coming from afar, and all his friends and family. Thank you so much for supporting Frank on his last days, and to Jacqueline, Kennedy, everybody, Wayne, especially for you as well. It's going to be hard to say goodbye to Frank. I know we were supposed to have said goodbye already, but it's going to take a while to get over this. Frank has been very precious to everybody, and Martin said, very good friend. It's going to be hard. I think I'm going to close now. I think we've had enough to say and let somebody else take over. We've got Wayne also is going to have something to say as well. Thank you very much, everyone. I couldn't hardly talk. Thanks for everyone for being here. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Bev. Okay, so up next we now have Kerry Lee. Are you okay, Kerry? You got this. Just remember, it's all about Frank. It's always ever been about Frank. Even Frank was about Frank.
That's for sure. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Excuse me, I'm going to read off my phone. We don't write anymore on paper. So here we go. First off, I just want to say a massive thank you on behalf of our entire family, the messages, the calls, the emails, the popping in visits have just been absolutely overwhelming. And I feel Dad feels the love too. So thank you, everybody. It's not going unnoticed. First of all, those that don't know me, my name is Kerry Lee. I'm eldest daughter of Frank Knowles. I'll be speaking on behalf of my sisters, Taryn and Kayla D. Sadly, Taryn could not make it here with me. She is 8 months pregnant and will be with Dad's third grandson at this point. So she's in Ireland with our family over there, all of whom wish they could be here today more than anything. Goodness, where do we even start with Dad? First off is the music. Dad loved his music, and all music to that. No specific genre, and it's safe to say he definitely passed that gene on to us 3 girls, for whom of which loved to sing and dance. Kayla D more on the dance side. Unfortunately, I got 2 left feet, just like Dad, but that didn't stop us from dancing or trying at any occasion, anywhere. Dad was known as the life of the party, always putting a smile on your face, a true entertainer. I'm sure we all have memories of Dad on the microphone somewhere around KZN. For us girls, we grew up at Midmar with Dad and Uncle Wayne's voices on the speakers. Once we heard those voices, we knew we were okay and within reach, no matter how far we explored. No one ever knew the pain that Dad went through. With his arthritis and his gout, as most of you know, that can be extremely painful. Other than visibly seeing this in his hands, arms, and knees, you wouldn't know he was in pain. He always had a smile on his face, and he always wanted to put one on others as well. He would take the shirt off his back and give it to you if it was needed. He wasn't the richest guy, but we were so rich with the amount of love he had for all of us. Dad was happiest on the mic and around us girls. He will forever be the karaoke king, sorry rivals. And one day we will have the courage to get up and sing a song again. And it will be for you, Dad. It will always be for you. Apart from Dad's music career, there was a lot of spas, and of course OK Grocer and the centre there, and for the past decade, ENC Charcoal. So no matter what, Dad will forever be remembered, that's for sure. Dad's legacy will forever live through us girls and his precious grandsons. I was able to share the amazing news with Dad before he left us that the third grandson's middle name will be Frank. This was decided the minute they knew they were pregnant, and Dad needed to hear it. And he did. He flinched when I told him. He heard me and he knew I know he felt proud. Dad, I know you are well and truly living it up there with all your best jams and with your mom and your dad, the grandparents, friends, and even Warren's dad, Shawl, who sadly we never got to meet. I know you'll share all the amazing memories you have had with your grandsons, Hayden Knowles, Hunter Shawl Solsvedal, and little newbie Frank Solsvedal will forever carry not only your names, but your surnames too. Dad, we are lucky to have had you walk both Taryn and I down the aisle. It will forever be a sore feeling knowing you never got to walk Kayla D down the aisle or meet our kids. But with the strength of us 3 girls, from now until forevermore, we will get through it. And we'll do so together. You'll forever be missed through every song, through every person you have touched. Dad, fly with all our angels. You deserve to no longer be in pain. You deserve to be free. We love you, Dad, and I hope you feel and see how loved you were. We miss you. Thank you.
Maureen Salzwedel is going to come up and just give Kerry Lee something from the family and say a few words.
Good day, everybody. Thank you so much. My name is Maureen Salzwedel. I'm part of the family. My son is married to Taryn, Frank's second daughter that's actually living in Ireland. And I just have a little something for her sisters that she's asked me this morning to please give to his sisters from her in Ireland. So So, Kerry Lee and Taryn, I'd like you to come forward. Kelly D and Kerry, come forward, please. And I just have a little message from your sister. To my beautiful, beautiful sisters, I want you to know that I'm so sorry that I'm not with you and on such a sad day, but know that I am with you in spirit. And these flowers that I'm giving to you is to know that I'm holding you so close to my heart today. Dearest Daddy, God saw the suffering that you went through, and he reached out his golden hand in his precious hand to take you home to be with him. You're forever in my heart, Daddy. I will love you forever. May your dearest soul rest in peace. Love, Taryn. And then a little message from everybody else in Ireland on the other side. As dearest Pops and Opa, thank you so much for always being there for us and being the best Papa and the best Opa to our precious little boys. Thank you for the laughter and the beautiful memories and your witty sense of humor. Whenever we were around, you made us feel so special and so welcome. We're going to miss that laughter, that smile, the love that you've always given to us, the music, the song. You never sat in a silent moment. You always wanted music around you. Thank you once again for your beautiful daughters that you've given to us, Clay and I. Taryn and Kerry, we are so blessed. And for our precious little sister, Kaylee D, although we're far away, we want you to know that we love you and you'll always remain our little sis. Frank, your daughter's smiles always remain with us. Whenever we look at them, we know that you're in our hearts. Please do us a favor and say hello to Opa and to Daddy up in heaven. We know that you are celebrating, and I know that you're giving all the stories about our little grandkids and how much love we've had for them. We're going to miss you so much, Frank, the braais, the times in the jacuzzi with the boys and the fun and the laughter we had, and the beers. We're going to miss that, Frankie. Pops, Opa, we're going to say cheers to many, many more. We love you very much. Wally, Clay, Warren is married to Taryn. Clayton is married to Kerry, the oldest daughter. And then from Hayden, Opa, I want you to know that I love you so much, and I'm going to miss you so, so much. Sorry you can't be there to share this special day with you. May you rest in peace, Opa and Pops, we love you.
Right, thank you, Maureen. I'm now going to call on Frank's best friend of over 50 years to come say a few words. Wayne?
Where do I start so I don't get thrown off the stage? I can't put 52 years into a short time. It's really special seeing some people that have arrived here. I saw Vassie, Mike Kavanagh. You see some pictures up there, old Sunday League soccer days, and it goes right back to the first time I walked into Alex High School. Everybody knew that the schools were all about rugby and cricket in those days, and we saw this short little guy, cheeky little guy. He always had something to say, an answer for everything. And then everybody, by the end of that year, was asking him to do flick-flacks because he was such a good gymnast at 13 years old. So that's when I was privileged to actually meet him. He already had a lot of friends that he came through from Boys Model School. I think some of them are also here. We got a special message from Donnie Ankovich, who was our head boy when we matriculated in 1977. And Donnie has been in Canada for 21 years now. And one of the important things that Donnie messaged just the other day was although he's 21 years he's been in Canada, the biggest thing he misses about South Africa is the friends. And that is what a person like Frank was. He was a really true friend to a lot of people, not just me. I just was the privileged one where our 21st were together, birthdays, Christmases, 40th, 50th, 60th. Just now this year, when we turned 64, we had Christmas together. And he was just that special person that when he came along to a braai and he left the braai, we were all happy. okay, because he had the right things to say. He could cheer anybody up. There were a lot of times where I've seen Frank not cheerful, and he was heartbroken himself, and we would then just go off on our own. And as you say, he would just have a beer or 2 or 3, 4, 5. Okay. But one of the impressions that he made on a lot of people, and especially in the COVID time, when we would sneak up for a bra during COVID and you weren't allowed to be together. And he met a lot of the swimmers, and he made an impression on those swimmers as well. And we've just had the South African short course in Durban, and people like Ayrton Sweeney, Doug Erasmus, Matthew Sates, and them, they had some wonderful times, just sitting with Frank. I think there are some pictures showing that group of people over that COVID time when we were now desperate to actually meet other people. But for Frank, we've played music from the early days. When we were at school, I had the music, the equipment, and he had all the knowledge of the music. We even tried to play in a band at one stage, the 2 of us. And we played at my sister's house. I think it was in Levy Street or something. We recorded it in those days. We didn't have cell phones like kids have got nowadays. And we played it back. And that's when I decided I wasn't going to play anymore. But what was good, the further away we walked down the street and the louder we put it, the better it sounded. So the further away we went. But he carried on, and he always played the guitar. And we would ask him to sing along and play the guitar. But it certainly cured me of any playing music, so I went off in a different direction. But those special moments of what we did playing at discos and at high school and everything, it started our friendship. And he'll always have a comment about CB radios and things like that, because I was the one that had the car. And the funniest thing was, the first day I ever picked him up from we were driving to school, I had bought this little Austin 1100, and he said, no, I must come fetch him. And they stayed just near the prison here in Pietermaritzburg, so I went and I fetched him. And we got to the bottom, I can't remember what that road is, but it's at the bottom of West Street. The College Road bridge is just over here, and we're going to now try and turn right into the traffic. So, but the cars are just coming backwards and forwards. We're trying to work out, I don't have a license. I sold my motorbike. I don't have a license to drive this thing, but we're going to drive to school. The next thing he says, just put your foot flat, man. Just put your foot flat. Okay, so we did that, and we went straight across to the other side of the road into that dead end on the other side. And we did a U-turn around and went back there, and I thought to myself, no, this is a little bit too difficult. And we found this car wasn't working so well. So we got to the parking lot at Alex High School. We're in matric. We start heading into school. So we're big guys now because we're driving a car to school. And I don't know if anybody remembers Dirk de Beer, who played, he actually stayed back to play rugby at school for a couple of years after he should have left school. And he was telling us about the car. He says, no, you just got to advance the timing a little bit, the distributor. And he came there at lunchtime and he did it. So we took a drive through at the end of school that day. We took a drive through Alexandra Park, when you could drive through in those days. And he said, no, man, look at this, car's going better. He says, put your foot down. And we did. And we managed to hit a tree. Okay, so that influence from him was quite strange. And but we had fun with it. In those days you could. I don't think you can have that same fun anymore. We've done things, and Martin reminded me about hitching all the way down to Scottsboro and going for a weekend and things when you could hitch in those days. Our kids nowadays miss all of those things. They can't do that. So we've done those things. We've hitched down to Durban and got arrested, and then they had to phone Frank's mom in the evening to find out if we were supposed to be there. A couple of days later, we found out in Albert Park there had actually been a murder there, and we slept under one of the trees there. So when you read that in the newspaper, it was quite hair-raising, but you didn't think much of it. Nowadays, you will not go and sleep there. So it went on and on. When I graduated at university, I had a little red Mini, and we spoke about this forever, and he really enjoyed that little red Mini, because we used to pack our music equipment in there and go and play, and he would have fun when he was playing the music at the different parties. But he said, no, we've got to go for a party in Durban. And I said, Frank, I've got to actually coach that evening. I've got a gala in Durban. It was the old beach bars that was on the beachfront. So he said, no problem. So I fetched him, and he had a few bottles of champagne. except we drank them on the way down to Durban, and we were going very fast down the hills and very slow up the hills because it was a little 850 Mini. And he would shake the bottle of champagne and open it inside the car. Okay, spray it inside the car. But we were driving like that. So we ended up at Pirates Beach, and we decided we're going to go for a swim. And you know, when you see the water on the sand, it's about this deep. We actually dived into that water. And eventually the lifesavers told us, please don't go in the water. So we buried some bottles of champagne. So if you do start finding any bottles of champagne, it's from those days. Okay, we buried them because we wanted to keep them cold. But I had to sober up by then and go to this gala that evening. And he was just laughing at me because we were not in the shape to go and start coaching any kids. So by the time I got, you know, well enough to go into this gala and watch these kids swim, the very first swimmer that I watched ended up getting disqualified. So I just said, I better sit in the stands and just stay away from it. But fortunately, the parents in those days accepted that you can have a party when you graduate. And then my first Olympic swimmer was Daryl Cronje, and he was like 6'4", tall guy. And he wanted to lift home with us after that gala. So I said, no problem at all. And I don't know if you remembers the Cuban hat on the beachfront there. Okay, the Cuban hat is where we had to get some food now to be in a better position to drive home. We're driving a kid home now. So we realized that this car that we had sped down to Durban had now had a problem. So we had blown the cylinder head gasket, and we were now driving at about 40 kilometers an hour all the way back to Pietermaritzburg. And Daryl, being the swimmer he is, he was tired. He went to sleep, and he woke up, and he said, are we there yet? I said, no, we actually just got to the top of Fields Hill now. Okay, so, you know, this was like a few hours later. And it was just the funny things that Frank always would say, hey, you remember that day, you remember that day. He had an incredible memory, far better than me. I can't remember all these people's names that were at school with me, okay, but he remembered everybody. And I think it's the association that he kept with everybody. He was just that special person that could break a little bit of tension at a function or whatever it is. And I really enjoyed him on the mic. It is something that I'm going to miss tremendously. We already did this year. It was one of the first years that he didn't make it to Mid-Mile this year. And we were under a bit of pressure. I'm sure Martin will remember that. Trying to fill in his shoes what he actually did, because a lot of people don't really realize what each person's function is at an event that size. And we used to say to him, you go out and chat to all the people for the social talk. Because he had the gift of the gab. He could go and grab something. He'd come and say, yeah, do you know what? You know, that person over there, that person there. And he also had a special eye for the disabled swimmers that had a lot of courage to actually finish the event. And that was always event one. And you'd come along and say, that person did this and that person did that. And he was just that special note that he could find along the way. So for us, we missed him already. We will, so we hope you all sort of pop up as well if you can. We are going to spread his ashes at Mid-Mile for next year because he is special. He's a special part of the event, and I will miss him, but he won't be forgotten. You know, we'll do something special for him and remember him in as many ways as possible. As I say, I could go on forever because it's 52 years. You can't put it into a couple of minutes. But a big thank you to everybody for coming out. Special mention to Martin for coming in and just holding it together. To Bev and everybody that I've been through with Frank. Okay, I do want to make sure that his memory is there for everybody, because he wasn't just my friend, he was everybody's friend. I just am privileged that I spent probably more time and more special moments with him. So thank you very much, and let's see if we can remember. I don't know if anybody else is going to be talking, but you're welcome to just put up your hand and say, yeah, but I remember that and that and that. We could go all evening probably. But thank you very much. Very special man, and we've lost a real gentleman as well. So thank you.
So on that note, thank you, Wayne. On that note, when everybody goes to Park Villa, Llewellyn has set up a live stream. There is a microphone there, and you're more than welcome to go there and say your anecdotes into the microphone, and it'll be live streamed around the world. And you can say that you've been famous because you've all been on YouTube. So I've got a couple of things I need to read. I've got from Charles Holloway, who's the Managing Director of ENC Charcoal. Also from Hilary Greenwood, Lorraine, Wendy, Cindy, Mabel, Stephen, Natalie, Sipu, Sam, and all the colleagues. He says, Kerry Lee, Taryn, Kayla D, and Bev. To begin, our sincere condolences on your tragic loss, and my apologies for not being able to share this special occasion with you. Frank was a wonderful colleague and a friend and worked for ENC Charcoal diligently and successfully for the past 10 years as National Sales Manager. I have been fortunate to receive glowing tributes for Frank from all our supermarket buyers and logistical companies. These are available should you wish. Frank was a good man who always did his best and was dedicated to his job, his products, and all those who he worked with, and they were all his friends. The growth in the company's sales and the high esteem Frank was held in by his work colleagues is testament to his success and the endearing character. Frank was a modest man and never one to harp on his achievements. He was the perfect team man. He will be sorely missed, and his memory will be with us for many years to come. Frank went out of his way to bribe for people at charitable events, the old age homes for pensioners, the Moths, Comrades Marathon, Longest Race Day, Hilton Harriers, Bowls Clubs, SPCA, and the list goes on. Kerry Lee, Taryn, Kayla D, and Bev, you can still be very proud of Frank. He loved his girls and spoke often about you all. Take care, may God bless you and comfort you at this time. Finally, please know, if there's anything that ENC can do to help you, it will be our privilege and honor to do so. With best wishes, Charles Holly. Then I have a message from Shane. I did ask it to be done in big type because it's rather difficult when you get to my advanced years to read in small type. So this is from Shane. As we go through life, our journey introduces us to various people who have an impact on our lives. Frank Edward Knowles came into my life at an age where I was about 15. Through our time spent together, I learned many things from Frank, who always was conscious of the environment, and when in conversations, when negativity popped his head out, Frank always found a way to turn the conversation into a positive outcome. He valued his family and friends, where he always felt it in him to spoil others, even if he himself has very little to give. Frank was passionate about his duties and the roles he performed. He had a keen business understanding where many companies he worked for benefited positively. Frank was a people's person who made the best of life with what was given. I remember playing soccer for Park Villa together with Frank, and in one game, he sent the ball ahead of myself on the wing, knowing that my opponent was much older and slower. I took off after the ball and started out to outpace my opponent, who decided to trip me. Head over heels, I rolled down the pitch, and when the dust cleared, I found my feet. I turned back to see the shortest man in the field, Frank, at war with the opposition. Frank was fierce in defending his teammates, yet somehow he always found a way in himself that once the final whistle went, his attitude from playing a game of soccer to entertaining those around him kicked in. He loved his family with a passion, yet he always kept a calm head in raising logical, positive solutions where misunderstanding, negativity raised its head. Frank will be sorely missed by a vast amount of people in this world, yet I know his teachings and the meaningful interactions with everyone he encountered will go on remembered and cherished for many years to come. Although physically short in life, yes, he was shorter than me, he will be remembered as a giant in life. In closing, I wish to leave a short message to my family. Mom, Raymond, Priscilla, Jacqueline, Stanton, Kerry Lee, Taryn, Kayla D, and the rest of the family, my heart goes out to you all in this time of mourning. Let's celebrate the life we had with Frank, husband, brother, father. Be thankful for the time we were given, even if we feel the time was too short. The lessons we learned from Frank will always dwell in our thoughts, and he will always be loved for the joy he brought to us and this world. Know that he is in a better place and that he carried out his roles whilst on this earth with distinction. I pray that we can all move forward with life, getting closer and stronger together as a family, as I know that is the wishes of Frank for us as a family, to live life to the fullest and enjoy one another's company when the opportunity arises. All my love, Shane. Then I have a message from Priscilla. Priscilla writes, It looks like it could be a poem. Let me read this. Frank, a name that echoes wide with humor, wit, and endless pride. Brother to Raymond, Priscilla dear, your laughter brought us all good cheer. Husband to Bev, steadfast and true, in your love she always knew. A heart so big, a love so strong, together you would journey long. Father to Kerry Lee, Taryn, Kayla D, Shane, Stanton, and Jacqueline, in them your legacy we see. A father's wisdom, warm embrace, in each of them your love has place. Popular, generous, known to all, your spirit stood ever tall. Your humor lit the darkest days, your kindness shone in countless ways. Though time moves on and days will fade, the mark you left will not degrade. In hearts and minds forever known, Frank, your love will always be shown. Loved and remembered, always true, Frank, we carry a part of you. Sure. Right. My turn. But before I do that, I've got one more from Brian Eminis from Capital Sounds. So, as Wayne mentioned, we do the sound at the Aquila Mid-Mile every year. I've been doing it now, I think it must be 22 years at least. Frank used to be at the start, and then I did a radio show on Radio Maritzburg, and I interviewed Wayne on my sports show one Saturday afternoon, and he said, hey, you can do this. Why don't you come and help me at the start, and I can use Frank on the slipway. Well, what people don't know about Wayne, and I'm going to digress slightly, is when Wayne asks you to do something and you say yes, you don't have to be asked again. It is assumed that you will do it forever. Unless you let him down. If you let him down, that's it, you're done. Cuts you off, boom. So we've been intertwined for many, many, many years, and I started at the Mile, and we, in the last 10 years, have hooked up with the country's prime outside broadcast company called Capital Sounds. And the owner of Capital Sounds is a name some of you older people may remember from Capital Radio, which was the sports presenter Brian Eminis. So Brian arrives. Brian's larger than life. He arrives, sets up the sound. We do throws across the dam, and we talk to each other, and we have a lot of fun. And I remember Brian arriving at the first Mid-Mile, being told, you've got this guy Martin at the start, and you've got Frank here at the finish. And we had a guy called Bernie who was on the slipway in those days. He said, those are your guys you're dealing with. And Brian, being Brian, professional, didn't know who these three guys were. And at the end of that weekend, Brian called Frank, myself, and Bernie together, and he said, guys, I've done hundreds of outside broadcasts, and this is the best team that I've worked with. I didn't know who you were, and it was an absolute pleasure to work with you, which was, for me and Frank specifically, as literally amateurs in the business. It was just something that has stuck with me. And Brian's been there for many years, and when I voice noted him, he was at an air show in Johannesburg, I voice noted him to say that Frank had passed away. He posted this on on our Mid-Mile page. He said, for many years we have been involved with the Aquila Mid-Mile, one of the greatest events of its kind in the world. It is massive and organized by the master himself, Wayne Ridden. Capital Sounds has been the outside broadcast anchor for the event, making use of many of the slickest and best presenters around. Sadly, our ramp master, Frank Knowles, passed away due to illness. We as a team are devastated at the loss of our teammates. Rest in peace, Frank. The ramp will miss your beautiful voice. Thank you, Brian. I hope Brian is online. He said you would try and be online, so Brian, thank you. Before I say my little bit here, I just want to thank the Gungadin Shell Hole, the Alan Wilson Shell Hole, the live stream, Llewellyn Faber from Stage Group Productions, and the wake is going to be held at Park Villa. After this, we've got a message I'm going to play for that. So the wake's going to be at Park Villa. After here, we go next door into the bar. There's tea and coffee. Buy your own drinks. We're not paying for you to drink. Because if you drink like Frank, we can't afford it. And then Park Villa for the wake where you can do your thing. So I just want to say that I've known Frank since 1973 when he came to Alex as a skinny little boy. I was a couple of years ahead of them. In fact, I was 2 years ahead of them. But when I left school, I was only a year ahead because in those days when you failed, you were kept back. And I failed Standard 8. I had 2 good years in Standard 8, and they caught me up a year. But Frank's and my paths crossed more in the later years, specifically Mid-Mile Mile and music and so on. And Frank and I worked closely at the mile on the slipway, as I said, and we were tasked also with handling the prize giving. You know, Wayne again said, guys, you guys must do this. He's tired now, he's had a long weekend. So we took it over. And there was always friendly banter between Frank and I, often with him assuming and informing me that he was taller than me. I can promise you he wasn't. And Frank, you're not here to defend yourself. You were never taller than me. But we always try to outdo each other. But at the end of the day, when we had the mic in hand, we were still as professional as we could be doing what we had to do. And that's a prestigious event. You can't mess around at things like that. But one thing I found about Frank was he was generous with his time, his friendships, and of course none more so than with you, Wayne. I know you've played it down, but that friendship is what a true friendship really is. And I'm sure, as you've said here, you could write a book about those shenanigans. So maybe we should think about doing that. Look, life hadn't been easy for Frank in the past year, but through thick and thin, and his ill health, Wayne and his friends were there for him, and he just took it on the chin, as we know Frank to do. And he kept his sense of humor, which is the most important thing. It's very easy for us when we're not feeling well to be down in the dumps and doer and, I'm so sick, Frank wasn't like that. Frank was ill, he knew it. Well, so what? I had a spider bite. Well, he would send messages from hospital. He was in Northdale with the spider bite, calling it his holiday home, and he would be released in a few days' time, and he's loving, that was Frank. I mean, you're in a government hospital. We don't have to answer any questions on that. But I just want to say, Frank, you will definitely be very, very sorely missed by all of us. You're free now from any pain and suffering. And I just want to quote what I found on your Facebook page, which was apparently your favorite quote of all times. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. Just be sure it's not an oncoming train. All right. Wayne, somebody want to play some music quickly? A message? Okay. Is it going to be read out? Or? It's from Lynn Scarpa in Australia. Apparently his first girlfriend.
When I come to the end of the road and the sun is set for me, I want no rights in a gloom-filled room. Why cry for a soul set free? Miss me a little, but not for long, and not with your head bowed low. Remember the love that once we shared. Miss me, but let me go. For this is a journey we all must take, and each must go alone. It's all part of the master plan, a step on the road to home. When you are lonely and sick at heart, go to the friends we know. Laugh at all the things we used to do. Miss me, but let me go.
I think that's the first time I've heard it, but I think it's true. We need to miss him. We need to let him go. We need to know that he's in a better place, wherever that may be. And I can assure you, he will definitely be playing music wherever he is. And he'll be looking down on us, wondering why we're not playing the kind of music he liked. But Frank, we are going to miss you. What I'm going to do now, we're going to close with the members from the Gungadin Shell Hole. Frank was a newly recruited moth. He'd been with us for a few months. But as a moth, we have a tradition when somebody receives the sunset call, as we call it. And I would like to ask the old Bill from Gungadin, Ken Haynes, to come forward and present our sunset call. You want the microphone? All right. Ken's just had a hip replacement, so don't worry about him.
I don't want to talk on there. Is that all right? Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is, Martin said, is Ken Haynes. I'm the old bull for Gungadin Shell Hole, of which Frank
was a member. He was a very liked moth at our shalal and was always available to assist in fundraising for the less privileged. The family decided to celebrate his life here at Alan Wilson Shalal. Because of the security and the facilities available, Gungahdin, from Gungahdin's side, we give our condolences to the family, the whole of Gungahdin does. A special thank you to the old bull of Alan Wilson, Brian McGarry, for making the facilities available for the family and for friends. Thank you, Brian. All moths, mothwa, military veterans, and anyone who has done military service, please stand. Moth's attention. Be it known to all present that Moth Frank Edward Knowles, a member of Gungahdin Shalal, has answered the sunset call and gone to meet the higher command. I said to the man who stood at the gate of the year, "Give me a light so that I may tread safely into the unknown." And he replied, "Go out into the darkness and put your hand in the hand of God. That shall be to you better than light and safer than a known way. May that almighty hand guide and uphold us all." Moth salute. In proud thanksgiving, let us remember our elder brothers and sisters. They shall not grow old as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Drop salute. I'm quoting John 14 out of the Bible. Jesus was sitting with his disciples. Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself. That's where I am. There you may also be. And where to go you know, and the way you know. Thomas, his disciple, said to him, Lord, we do not know where you are going, and how can we know the way? Jesus answered him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. At ease, please be seated. Thank you. Thank you, Martin. Let me just draw to the next level.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our memorial for our dear friend Frank. I think what we need to do now is, at football matches and rugby matches, there's always this moment silence, which is nice. But I think we should do the other thing and have a moment of a round of applause. I think that'll send them off the right way. So let's everybody put your hands together and let's give a big round of applause to our dear friend Frank. Right, tea and coffee are available next door, as are some snacks. The bar is open, again, for your own account, just in case you thought differently. And those of you who want to go to Park Villa after that, please feel free to join us there. And remember, there is a microphone there, so you can put your anecdotes. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. If we can just let the family leave first, and then everybody just follow.